Journalist Toolbox training. I'm Mike Riley, the founder and editor of the Journalist Toolbox. And today we're going to talk about analyzing data in a Google Sheet. We're going to show you how to scrape data into a Google Sheet, sort it, filter it, how to do a math calculation with it. And I've prepared a little exercise for you that you can download at this bit.ly link, bit.ly/analyzebridges. So what you might want to do right now is just hit the pause button and then download that exercise so you have that Google Doc open on your spreadsheet. So hit pause right now and then we'll get started on the assignment. All right, welcome back. You should now have this document open, analyzing data in Google Sheets. It is a data set on failing bridges in the U.S. It's a study by the Federal Highway Administration, a government entity that went in and did a study of all the bridges in the U.S. and the conditions they were in. There were three conditions: good, fair, and poor condition. Very eye-opening study that the Federal Highway Administration did back in 2017. So there's the hot link to it right here. When you go to the page, you'll see this big ugly table here full of all kinds of useful information. The number of bridges total per state, good, fair, and poor condition, and then also the bridge area. We're going to focus on bridge counts here, but we're going to include the bridge area in our scrape. And we're going to scrape this table of data. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a button here to just download everything, but you can scrape it out of here. Some government documents allow you to download these tables now. Others do not. So when you do not have that available to you, you have to scrape the data. The good thing about the scrape tool that I'm going to show you is once you scrape something, it is tied to that spreadsheet. So if it's updated, if any of the data is ever updated or changed, it'll update in your spreadsheet as well. The bad news with that is you've got to take and create a separate tab with all the data and move your data over in there so you can sort and filter it and do the math calculations and edits with it. So we're going to pull the data set out of here first, and then we're going to clean it up and have some fun with it and do some math calculations. So what you'll find right here is this handout. And as you scroll down, all you have to do is find this little formula here. And this is a formula that we use to scrape data out of web pages. Once you fill it out, it says import HTML from a URL, from a website. We're going to tell it to scrape a table, and table 0 means start at the top of the page and scrape down. We want that first table. So I've actually filled out the little form for you here. It'll work for any web page that has just a basic web table in it like that. You might change the 0 to 1, 2, 3, or 4 if your table that you're searching for is at the bottom, near the bottom of the page. But just highlight this and copy it from the equal sign all the way to the close parentheses. I always read my scraping formulas as a sentence. Import HTML from the Federal Highway Administration Bridges Inspections database. I want a table and I want it to start at the top of the page. So that's really what this code is telling your Google Sheet to do. When you go to scrape, you want to do it in Google Sheets because that way it's going from web page to web page. A Google Sheet you can obtain by going into drive.google.com and hitting the Google Sheets option. I just type in sheets.new into my browser window. It'll also work for Google Docs. Sheets.new. It's also in the little handout and in the description of this training video. And once your sheet opens up and loads, it'll take a minute. It'll say working here that it's trying to load. Once it loads, you want to title it. That's the first thing you always want to do with your Google Sheets because nothing worse than coming back and trying to find a data set you've scraped weeks later and you can't see the title. It says everything is a untitled spreadsheet. So you always want to title your spreadsheets. So just click in the upper left-hand corner and FWA and it's going to be the bridge inspections 2017. and then click into cell A1. Anytime you scrape, you want to scrape into cell A1 and start in the upper left-hand corner. Your first row should always be the labels of what the data appears under it. So you never want to start with data in your first row. And then that formula that I had you copy, just paste it in there. And if you're living right, you've just scraped this entire government database in just a few seconds. So here you see, all the data here, and it's got a header. Let's say I want to edit this data and type the word state in line 2 here over the state name. I hit return. Look what happens. It gives me an error. You can Command Z out of it. That's because this spreadsheet is tied to this web page. It's constantly scraping this web page and feeding the information in here. So to use this data, you're going to want to highlight it and go down here. I'm going to not include totals here. I'm just going to go down to Puerto Rico. Includes all 50 states of Puerto Rico. And you can hold down the Shift key and just click down here for the Puerto Rico data. And I'm going to copy it. So Command C on a Mac or Control C on a PC. And notice down here at the bottom you have tabs at the bottom of your Google Sheet. Sheet 1 is this sheet you're scraping with. You can always go up here and do File, New Sheet, new spreadsheet. I like to kind of keep everything self-contained, and I never work on my original anyway. You always want to make a copy. That way, if you mess something up, you always have that original copy to back yourself up on. Kind of forces you to do that anyway. So hit the plus sign down at the bottom left where it says Add Sheet when you hover over it. It'll give you a new sheet, Sheet 2. Paste it in. And now you can type state into cell A. Okay, so you have both tabs here. You have your original scraped sheet and sheet 2, which I'm going to label bridges here at the bottom. I like to label everything. And sheet 1, I can label it scrape or whatever, whatever I wanted to. And I'm going to label it state up here. And what I'm going to do here, and your training handout walks you through all of these steps, is to use it to calculate percentages of bridges that are in fair condition, poor condition, and fair poor. So columns J, K, and L are going to be new columns of data that I'm going to produce from this data set. So percent fair, percent poor, and then column L will be percent fair poor. And one thing you can do here is you can always grab between the columns here at the top to increase the width so you get a little more space in there. So what we're going to do now, I always think of a spreadsheet as kind of like the game Battleship, column B2 hit, you sunk my battleship, that type of thing. And you're always thinking of this as a grid, B2 or C4 or whatever to take you to the different cells. You can do mathematical equations with it that save you just a ton of time. So what we're going to do here is to figure the percent of fair bridges, we're going to take column D2 and divide it by column B2. All of the bridges, or the fair bridges divided by all of the bridges. Which it looks like it'll come out somewhere around 40-some%. So to do that, we'll go back to our handout. And I give you the formula right here under step 2. Equal sign D2 / B2. Okay. Just do that. Cut and paste it in there. And it'll figure it as a decimal point percentage. Okay. We'll change that in just a minute. Once you have that first column calculated or that first cell calculated, hit Command C or Control C on a PC and you'll get the little marching ants around it. And then you can scroll to the bottom and highlight the entire column, column J, go Command V, and it's going to copy that formula all the way to the bottom. So it'll calculate all of those decimal percentages. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing for percent poor condition bridges. So we're going to go in, and for that one will be E2, B2, because in this one, we're going to go to E2 divided by B2. We're going percent fair now, or percent poor now. E2 divided by B2. There's our calculation. We're going to copy it. We're going to paste it. We're going to do the same thing for fair poor, because now we're going to have to add columns D and E and divide it by column B. So we're going to add these two divided by B. So that's going to give us a percentage of fair poor. And that calculation is a little bit different. You have to use the parentheses, D2 plus B2, D2 plus E2 divided by D2. So copy under 6, paste that to cell L, copy it, and go all the way down to the bottom of your columns, highlight it, and paste. So now you've got all these as decimal points. And what I would do here is just kind of highlight this whole area of the decimal points. And there's a couple of different ways you can convert these into percentages. One is to go into format, and it gives you all kinds of different things under number. You can convert things into percentages, date, time, whatever. It'll give you different formats for it. It also should give you a $ for currency and percent here. So I could reformat all this as a percent. Okay, so that converts it into percentage points. And there you go. Percent fair for Alabama, percent fair poor. Put them together, and it's 57.23. Okay, so there's all your percentages. Well, that's fine, but it's kind of a big mosh pit here. Which one really has the most? We would probably want to look at fair to poor condition bridges. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to drive over a bridge that was in fair condition. But we'll look at fair poor. To start sorting and filtering, you always want to highlight all of the data in your data island here. And to do so, you just go up here. It's very similar to what they have as a little arrow that's up here in Excel, and just click up in here in this little area between A and 1. It'll highlight your whole data pool. And then you can go in, and the instructions will walk you through this as well as you get down here to steps 8, 9, 10, and 11. And once you have it highlighted, you can go to data right here, sort range, which is right here, and I'm going to sort it by column L. Always remember to check this box here. Data has a header row, so it recognizes row 1 and kind of holds it steady and doesn't sort it. We're going to select descending order. The highest percentage will go at the top. We could go lowest to highest too, but highest to lowest will yield our most newsworthy data. And hit sort, and now it gives it to us. Rhode Island, which is a smaller state, has fewer bridges, but has a high percentage of those are in fair to poor conditions. 83% are in fair to poor condition. And I live in Illinois, so I'm kind of interested in where Illinois is in here. And it looks like it's in row 36, and you would think, hey, it ranks 36 out of 50 states. But remember two things: your first row is always the header. Okay, and we also have Puerto Rico in here. So if your study's including Puerto Rico, and you mentioned that, or if you take Puerto Rico out and you don't count it as a state, then this would actually be 34, because the header row in Puerto Rico you wouldn't be counting. So always keep that in mind. Don't always just look at the number over here and go, oh, there's 36, there's 37. What is ahead of it that might not belong? Sometimes people will cut out Puerto Rico right ahead of it. Also look too for totals. Sometimes the totals will get mixed in here. A row of all the totals. We actually cut that out when we were highlighting it and bringing the data over, so we didn't have the full totals in there. You could also resort this by column K or column J if you just wanted percent fair or percent poor. You can also download these files and go download as an Excel or a CSV file if you're more comfortable working in Excel. But this is just a quick and dirty way to do a basic sort, scrape, sort, and some basic math calculations to find a good story. You start asking questions of data, and you can find some terrific stories by asking questions of your data. So that's our first spreadsheet exercise. We'll have some more coming up here on the YouTube channel. Thanks, and be sure to check out journalisttoolbox.org for all kinds of resources, including scraping tools and spreadsheet primers. Thanks.